Growing up, I used to hang out with this kid who lived by the next building over. I'll refer to him as Jonathan. Me and Jonathan practically grew up together our whole lives. We were like very, very close. We went to the same elementary school, middle school, and high school. And we would always play basketball together at our local basketball court. We would always ding dong ditch, and we would always play cards at our local community center. And overall, we did indulge in many other reckless behaviors. I mean, just like any other youth, I would say. Jonathan was a fairly good kid growing up. He would regularly partake in Quran classes, and he was very devoted to his religion of faith, and he would live by it, as he had a very good sense of principles and morale. Overall, a very good influence and person to be around. And nothing much can be said about our friendship. We had just like any other normal, very close friendship. But somewhere up till grade 8 or grade 9, in between, during that summer of going into high school, Jonathan started to change a little bit. He started hanging out with the wrong crowd and hanging out with people who were involved with not illegal stuff. And he started hanging around with the bad kids. And he also started doing a lot of bad things with them, such as stealing, fighting, robbing people, and even picking up on substances. Most people who would hang out with Jonathan growing up would stop hanging out with Jonathan after seeing the type of person he was becoming, as he went from a very happy and nice, outgoing kid to a very explosive, aggressive, antisocial kid. And he was changing for the worst, for sure. But even when everyone else left and didn't want to keep hanging out with him, I still stuck along his side. I mean, I grew up with this kid. We've had so much memories together. I mean, he was more of a brother than just a friend, and I just didn't feel I could just leave like that. So I still hung out with him, even though most other people who used to hang out with him stopped hanging out with him. I honestly just thought that this whole thing that was going on, him acting like this bad boy, was just some short-lived phase that he was eventually just going to grow out from. And I kept hanging out with him many more times than others have. As his character started to change a lot, as he wasn't the same person as he was before, I would recognize him and see him being noticeably a lot more ruder towards people around him, becoming a lot more aggressive towards innocent people who just didn't really deserve him. But even though I recognized it, even though I know that the way he was treating other people was wrong, he was still very nice and chill towards me. So 14-year-old me just didn't really pay much mind towards it. And as I would keep hanging out with him, I would slowly start to notice this little kid tagging along with him. who I later came to find out was 7 years old. I'll refer to this little kid as Jesse. I remember just seeing Jesse just tag along with Jonathan out of nowhere. I mean, sometimes I would see Jonathan and see Jesse with him. Sometimes I would be hanging out with Jonathan, and Jesse would just come and tag along when he's seen us. As everybody in our community knows each other, and we all know each other, like it was kind of like family. Everybody within the area knows each other regardless of age. So I didn't think of the age gap as too big of a deal or an issue, as it wasn't necessarily uncommon for people of different age groups to hang out with one another. So I didn't really pay much mind. As whenever Jesse was around, I'll just have small talk with him. I mean, he was only just 7 years old. I mean, there's nothing to really talk about with him, but he seemed very mature for his age for some reason. And it was later when I kept hanging out with Jonathan and Jesse, while Jesse tags along with Jonathan, of course, is when I started to realize that Jesse was skipping school, not listening to his parents. I started to notice that even Jesse had an attitude, and this was not appropriate behavior that a little kid, 7 years old, should be displaying. I remember I would recognize it, but then whenever Jesse would throw tantrums, I would look at Jonathan, and Jonathan would just be very normal and nonchalant about it. And even though deep down in my gut, I knew that his act was not right, I knew that I should have corrected him. But me looking at Jonathan just be so normal and even just laugh it off sometimes, I myself too would copy his behavior and just shrug it off and laugh it off sometimes. I remember one time me and Jonathan and a couple of other guys that we knew within the area were hanging out in one of the building staircases, as the staircase is a very common spot to hang out, especially at that time. And I would say that we were kids that had a good amount of freedom. I mean, I didn't have to come home as early as the other kids. Same thing with Jonathan and the rest of the guys. So it wasn't uncommon for us to hang out at the staircases past 1 a.m. at the staircase at the age of 14 years old. Considering that we were all so close to home, it wasn't a big deal. I was hanging out with Jonathan and the other guys that he hangs around with that weren't the best crowd looking back on it. But it was just like any other normal day, hanging out, talking about typical young boy stuff, about girls, money, rap songs, and a lot of stupid, petty stuff that high schoolers make a big deal about, but they were entertaining conversations. And I remember just seeing Jesse. Yeah, Jesse. That same 7-year-old little kid just walking in the staircase through the door. And when it took me a second to notice that it was Jesse that walked in, I thought to myself, how did he even know that we were here? I also thought to myself that it's a bit late for a 7-year-old kid to be outside at 11 p.m. when it's really late outside. But again, since nobody else around made a big deal off of it, I also didn't make a big deal off of it. We carried on with normal conversation with Jesse on the side, just listening. When somewhere down the conversation, Jonathan brings it up to me, that Jesse smokes. I remember looking at him like, no, he doesn't. Jonathan would reply with, yeah, like, he smokes. Like, he smokes. Here, let me show you. I looked at Jonathan in the eye and I told him, show me. Obviously, in the back of my head, thinking that he's just joking or he's just trying to play some prank for some little stupid reaction that I just wasn't going to give it to him. Shortly after, Jonathan pulls a pack of cigarettes out of his pocket, pulls a cigarette out of the packet, and hands it over to Jesse, the 7-year-old kid. Jesse takes the cigarette and puts it in his mouth. Jonathan then later reaches in his pocket and he grabs out a lighter. I remember thinking to myself, yeah, right. You're really trying to get a reaction out of me, huh? I'm not falling for it. You're not gonna do it. They're really trying to sell this joke to me. I had a slight smirk on my face. Then Jonathan sparks the lighter up and burns the tip of the cigarette. And then I see Jesse take one big, really fat pull and just blow out all the smoke out of his mouth. I remember my eyes being wide open. I was so shocked. I couldn't even believe what just happened in front of me. I remember I just sat there for like 5-6 long seconds straight just looking at him. I was just so speechless. I just didn't know what to say. And as I was processing what just happened in front of me, I see Jonathan smirking at me. I see Jesse slightly giggling at my reaction. And then another person giggles. And then another person giggles. And then sooner or later, the whole group was laughing at me for my reaction. They were treating it was like it was so normal. Like it was just some type of fun game to them. I remember thinking to myself how wrong this really was. Deep down, I was very bothered as to what just happened. I knew what happened was very, very wrong. Honestly, a part of me wanted to get up and smack that cigarette out of his hand and scold everyone for even allowing this 7-year-old kid to smoke right in front of us. But when I looked around and I seen how nonchalant their attitude was about it, the way they laughed, the way they giggled, the way they just carried on with normal conversation, I remember thinking to myself, I don't know, I don't want to look sensitive. I don't want to seem weak. I don't want to seem emotional in front of the guys. I didn't want to get on Jonathan's bad side. And there I am, falling prey to the bystander effect. Just copying what everyone else did and reacted without even knowing. Then even I just shrugged it off, giggled, and just carried on with conversation. as this 7-year-old kid proceeds to not just finish one, but multiple cigarettes in front of me in one sitting. And this would be a somewhat frequent basis where whenever I would come and see Jonathan, I would see Jesse tagging along with him and him just casually smoking cigarettes right in front of us. And we just kind of allowed it to just happen. We didn't do anything about it. I didn't do anything about it. Even though deep down, I knew it was wrong and I wanted to do something about it, I just looked at others and I just let the bigger, overarching atmosphere around me take over and dictate my behavior. Fast forward, I don't see Jonathan no more. We kind of fell apart midway through high school. Jesse, the little kid, I don't know where he is. I remember when I reached grade 10, I didn't see him around no more. I figured that he must have moved out. And ever since then, I haven't seen them. I was 14 when Jesse was 7 years old. And I'm 21 years old now. So that would make Jesse 14 years old now. And I can only just wonder how his health is doing. I could only just wonder how his grades are doing. I mean, I don't even know if he's even alive or not. Because for a 7-year-old kid to smoke, it's not his fault. It's his surroundings that failed him. And it hurts that I'm a part of the surroundings that failed him. Even though I didn't give it to him, even though I didn't encourage it, I still stood there and did nothing and just allowed it to happen. I'm still equally as guilty. I let my ego get the best of me. I didn't want to get embarrassed. I wanted to be validated. I wanted to fit in. And for the sake of fitting in, I disregarded my own feelings and morality. Don't fall prey to the bystander effect. As it may seem like a convenient fix at the time, but later on, it is something that will really eat out on you. When you behave one way and you feel another, that misalignment will make you feel more disconnected with yourself. And knowing that you didn't do what you wanted to do is something that will eat at you. Because even if I got made fun of, even if I got unvalidated, even if that meant that I lost all my friends at that day or time, I would still be able to walk away knowing that I did the right thing. The bystander effect is so much more common than we think it is. Matter of fact, we probably fall prey to the bystander effect on a regular basis. Whether that's a homeless person asking for change, whether it's someone who's locked in the lobby and they need someone to open the door, but nobody else is doing it, so you decide to just go on with your own day. Even these little things matter. It's good to just be aware of the bystander effect, as it's something that could just kind of happen without you even noticing. But the effects of how it affects you after is still very there. The next time you see a problem or a situation in front of you, really just think, am I falling prey to the bystander effect? Is anybody else going to really help? Or are they just waiting just like I am? Because just really let it sink in. If you don't help them out, then who really will? Please comment and subscribe. Please share this video with someone who you may think can benefit off of this. Because if my video can help one person, just one person only, then my purpose of making this video has been met. Stay blessed and peace out.